Did China give the world the coronavirus and then fool us with a bogus vaccine? The answer seems to be yes, although Beijing will never admit that. China has always claimed that its vaccine, among the first to be used, was the answer to the deadly virus. Beijing sent its vaccines around the world and used vaccine diplomacy with those nations who were unable to pay for the medicine. It is now admitting that its jabs do not work. You know, there is a little joke about cheap Chinese products. We say, if something's made in China, it probably doesn't work. One had hoped that life-saving vaccines would be an exemption. But the latest headline from China tells quite a different story. Here's what I'm talking about. China has approved the retail sale of Pfizer's Wuhan virus pill. What's the big deal about it? Well, the big deal is that China is finally admitting that it needs a foreign COVID-19 drug. And why do you think that is? The virus has returned at monster levels to China and its vaccines have not worked. China knows that they are a sham. They are useless. The Chinese population of 1.4 billion people is now at risk. So the country needs working drugs. Because Chinese President Xi Jinping cannot keep the population locked up anymore. While medics inject jabs that simply don't work. So China was forced to buy Pfizer's anti-COVID drug. The pill's called Paxlovid. And people in China can now buy this pill online. This pill sold out just an hour after it was made available. Look at the demand. People hoarded it. And can you blame them? You see, they don't trust their own home-manufactured vaccines. And it's not just the Chinese who have been scammed by Xi Jinping. The Chinese Communist Party also sent ineffective vaccines to other countries. Some 1.8 billion doses have been sold till date. 328 million have been donated. Cambodia received 0.3 million doses of a Chinese vaccine as recently as the 14th of December. What is it supposed to do with these jabs now? Pretend they will help? Reports say Chinese vaccines like the Sinovac have only been up to 61% effective against deaths and 55% against hospitalizations. You see, there is a fundamental problem with Chinese vaccines. These vaccines have been made using killed SARS-CoV-2 virus, which doesn't work. It doesn't work too well. And China always knew this. Have you heard what happened in Nicaragua? The country was told that if it wanted Chinese vaccines, it would have to cut down its diplomatic ties with Taiwan. It was a tough call. Nicaragua had no option, and soon an Air China plane landed with the first 200,000 doses of vaccines. A similar offer was also made to Paraguay. Paraguay refused to accept this form of medical blackmail. In 2020, Chinese President Xi Jinping told the World Health Assembly that Chinese jabs were a global public good. He lied. Countries like Bangladesh quickly realized that the Xi vaccine was more hype than medicine. Indonesia went on to become the biggest taker of Chinese jabs, followed by Brazil. Even all-weather ally Pakistan, Turkey, Iran, the Philippines, Morocco, Thailand, Argentina, Venezuela, Cambodia, Sri Lanka, Chile, Mexico, Bangladesh, they all fell for the trap. And of course, many supplemented this with vaccines from other sources too. Hiding an outbreak is bad enough. China topped it up by profiting from the pandemic that it had unleashed. This has to be criminal. Healthcare workers in Indonesia have died even after receiving Chinese vaccines. The jabs had to be revoked and replaced with AstraZeneca. In Hong Kong too, the Chinese vaccine was found to be largely ineffective. What else explains the present vaccine skepticism in China? Why else do you think China was not reopening? Why else do you think China is building new hospitals at a feverish pace? Why else do you think COVID continues to rage in China when it has quietened in most of the world? This could still have consequences, with people back on the streets, travel and work restored, will we see China infecting the world yet again? There is one welcome difference. You see, the world is more careful now as Beijing sinks deeper in a disaster of its own making. Beyond World is One is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.